joining this webinar. So I've just chosen this topic of old dog, new trick, as in it's a age-old problem in Sri Lanka. But we're looking at a new approach to kind of address the issue, the trash to cash approach through incentivization, which I will take you through in a while as to how we got into it, the kind of research we've done, and all of that. So firstly, can I just get a feel for, I mean, we have a few people here. Are they kind of like very knowledgeable on the plastics topic, or should I pitch at like an introductory level, or should it be at a medium or relatively high kind of touching circular economy concepts and all of that? So would you be able to tell me where would you like me to pitch it? I'm asking the audience.
I think it would be more of an introductory level, no? Because a lot of us, I don't actually know, because we don't have all our divers on forum. They're outsiders as well. Most of our divers who go beach cleanups and reef cleanups know what it is like to what the pollution situation is like in the ocean, and about cleaning it out. But after that is what happens to it after that is, I think, the questionable area with most of us. Right.
Okay. So maybe a bit of an introductory level, no? I mean, that's the feel I get.
Right.
So I won't touch too much on circular economy and high level topics, but we can play it by ear. If you're getting a little bored, maybe you can ask me to tell me, you've heard all this, you've seen all of this, fast forward it or stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
So what I plan to do is do a bit of an overview of the problem initially in terms of numbers, composition, and stuff like that, which you're probably a little familiar. Then there are a few videos. Then to add to that, we are looking at how we analyze the value chain in the plastic, how, the status quo, how things happen today, and how we looked at the whole system from one end to the other, and kind of figured out where the problems are, why things are not flowing from one to another. And then how we came up with this solution, then a bit about trash to cash, what it's all about, how it works, a little video on that, and then a bit of the vision of what we plan to do with trash to cash in the future to solve all these, plastics as well as other recyclables problem that we have. So does that sound like a decent flow? So if you want me to add stuff, maybe I'll be able to conclude in 20-25 minutes. And then if you want to add stuff and during the Q&A, you can kind of open it up to any level of questions. I hope that works fine for you. So I'm going to get started.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
A bit about the startup. So Trash to Cash is one of our first products, and we have a few lined up. And the name of the company is Chakra Suthra. It's a tech startup, really, although we are into recyclables. It's all about circular economy. I'll explain towards the end what circular economy is. Our objective is to make homes as well as businesses, both entities, zero waste. We have homes here. We have a very linear consumer pattern. We buy things, use, and throw it. There's nothing. And I know some of you are concerned, but by far the majority, they have very linear use, consume, throw kind of mentality. And businesses also have a very similar thing. They manufacture, they put to the consumer, and after that, they really don't worry too much about what the consumer does or make an extra effort to try and collect back what they put to the consumer or the environment. And then companies sometimes do their business as is in isolation, and then they do their CSR in isolation, which we feel is not really a circular economic business model, and that's what we're trying to promote. Business should do business in a way that it doesn't create harm to the environment nor the consumers. Right. So the problem is relatively clear, but without me having to talk about this, I'm going to share a video, a 2-minute clip again. That kind of explain the whole issue. Hang on. Can you see the word nature on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. Zoom in a bit. Start. I paused it there for a bit. Can you all hear the audio as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fireworks and symphonies exploding in the sky. With you, I'm alive. Like all the missing pieces of my heart, they finally collide. So stop time right here in the moonlight. 'Cause I don't ever wanna close my eyes. Without you, I feel broke, like I'm half of a whole. Without you, I've got no hand to hold. Without you, I feel torn like a sail in a storm. Without you, I'm just a sad song. I'm just a sad song.
Right. So I think you all are all very familiar with what you see in your driving, you're spending a lot of time on the beaches. Back on the slides, right? My slides again. You can see my slides again? Hello?
No,
Yes.
Himesh, not yet. The YouTube what is there?
Oh, yes,
Your slides are not showing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's a bit of a powerful video showing the impacts of waste on the marine and the beaches. So then we'll come back to this issue on a bit of the numbers, just to show where the scale is. In Sri Lanka, we collect about, there's about 7,500 tons of waste generated. And or you might not be knowing that a good 50% of it, especially outside Colombo in rural areas, villages, it gets burned. So 50% on the total numbers get burned, and another 40% in the landfills as well as the sea, and only about 10% really get recycled, right? Now, this is a very low number, and these numbers across the globe vary quite significantly depending on how well the infrastructure is developed. But for Sri Lanka, this is what applies, right? So in terms of the composition of the stuff, by far the majority is organic waste. To the left-hand side on the bottom, you can see a lot of it is organic. Organic means all the food waste and the offcuts and stuff like that from the veg and meat and food produce. Plastics kind of contribute about 6% of the composition. You have paper, metal, glass, all of that contribute into the amount of recyclables that are entering the waste stream. Unfortunately, only 10% gets recycled, right? So I'd like to kind of, before we move on to the value chain, I'd like to kind of throw a question at you. Would you know in Sri Lanka what really happens to the household waste you generate? I mean, have a stab at what you think really happens? Anyone?
I don't think so.
What do you think actually happens? So you have your waste you collect, and I'm guessing, you know, we are relatively a little conversant with waste handling, so we probably segregate at home, right? Plastics and food into two different bins. I don't know. It's probably the same with you, but for us, that's how it happens. But what
Yeah, it's the
happens?
same. It's
What
the
happens?
same.
So what do you think happens next?
It goes to the collection and then they go and dump it at some horrible site.
Yeah, well, at a high level, that's what happens, but there's a bit more detail. So the municipality would come and collect it, right, from our doorstep, right?
Right.
And what they do is the guys, I mean, if it's food waste on a particular day, they will collect food waste. But if it's other recyclable, plastic, patra, ganna, davasata, what they do is, you know, we all kind of like put it all together, you know, all the plastics, bottles or paper, everything in one bag. But when you give it to the municipality guys, they sort it internally within the truck itself. And then on their way to the municipality or the landfill, what they do is they trade off the valuables. So the metal or paper or cardboard or glass, they will segregate it within the truck whilst they move, right? And they sell it to the Botal Patrakaryas that kind of pay them something for what they collect, right? So that's how the system works. And what happens to the Botal Patrakaryas? So so municipalities drop it off there, and the Botal Patrakaryas would collect it, and all these companies who do the recycling of cardboard, paper, and glass and stuff would buy it off this informal network for their recycling purposes. So one way or the other, some items go through the chain and back into the recycling stream for companies to manufacture them again. Unfortunately, some of them in the truck, they don't end up there. They don't get segregated. They end up in the landfill, right? That's what we're trying to show here in this diagram. And we looked at this value chain in high detail, right? So start things here from the consumer, municipality, they segregate it, and whatever gets segregated enters the recycler. Now, why do we have a plastic problem today in Sri Lanka? Why do you think we see plastics out there on the streets, on the park, on the beaches? Why is that?
I'm sure they don't follow this process, Himesh, because, for example, if you take our garbage guys who come, we are supposed to separate and give biodegradable versus non two separate days, right? But now you mentioned something that is quite news to me, because on the day that they come to collect the non-biodegradables, they come in the same type of dump truck. It's not a normal where you can sort it. There is no way they can sort it out.
No, they sort it manually inside. They have the little
there is no
bags.
way they can. There is no way they can. The people who come to my place.
Okay.
There is no way they can sort it out, because it's the same type of truck which is shown in your slide.
Yeah. Okay.
So it goes into this crusher-like thing, and this is with regard to the non-biodegradable, that is plastic and whatever, right? So I'm sure it is not. So we come under Maharagam.
Okay.
So that area, I don't think they are following, or maybe that particular unit that comes to us doesn't follow this.
Quite possible. So non-segregation is another big reason for this issue. So even the municipality doesn't segregate, then there's little chance in little cycle, because at the landfill sometimes you will have scavengers come and collecting stuff back for recycling, but if not, it wouldn't enter the recycling stream. But what I'm trying to show here in this value chain is, today you wouldn't believe it, there are recyclers in Sri Lanka, pretty much the majority who can convert plastic, collect plastic, convert them into shredded or into another product, they are running under capacity, right? All plastic recyclers are running under capacity, pretty much all, right? So, I mean, would you believe that in a country where there's so much plastic lying here and there, recyclers are running under capacity because they don't have enough plastic to process in their plants? Now, this is what kind of opened my eyes when I went into this problem, right? But on the other extreme of the value chain, you have the consumer who is generating a lot of waste, a lot of plastic waste or any kind of waste, and not ensuring that it enters the municipality or any other recycling stream. They would throw it, they would not segregate it. So this leakage happens mainly because people don't segregate. If consumers don't segregate, you have to consider it leakage. Leakage means in the municipality system, it won't come together, it won't get to the recycler. So the biggest leakage in our system is because the consumer doesn't segregate, right, by far. Then the second biggest contributor is within the infrastructure today, whether it's the municipality or whoever collects, that segregation is not maintained. Then again, it doesn't enter the recycling stream, right? So to kind of explain that, I have again a short, a very interesting little video on 3 lives of a plastic bottle, right? Yeah, so that's. Okay, let me share the screen again. Okay, this is a 4-minute video, but it's a very informative one about what happens to 3 types of plastic bottles if it enters 3 different streams. Okay.
This is the story of 3 plastic bottles, empty and discarded. Their journeys are about to diverge with outcomes that impact nothing less than the fate of the planet. But they weren't always this way. To understand where these bottles end up, we must first explore their origins. The heroes of our story were conceived in this oil refinery. The plastic in their bodies was formed by chemically bonding oil and gas molecules together to make monomers. In turn, these monomers were bonded into long polymer chains to make plastic in the form of millions of pellets. Those were melted at manufacturing plants and reformed in molds to create the resilient material that makes up the triplets' bodies. Machines filled the bottles with bubbly liquid, and they were then wrapped, shipped, bought, opened, consumed, and unceremoniously discarded. And now here they lie, poised at the edge of the unknown. Bottle 1, like hundreds of millions of tons of his plastic brethren, ends up in a landfill. This huge dump expands each day as more trash comes in and continues to take up space. As plastics sit there being compressed amongst layers of other junk, rainwater flows through the waste and absorbs the water-soluble compounds it contains, and some of those are highly toxic. Together, they create a harmful stew called leachate, which can leak into groundwater, soil, and streams, poisoning ecosystems and harming wildlife. It can take bottle 1 an agonizing 1,000 years to decompose. Bottle 2's journey is stranger, but unfortunately no happier. He floats on a trickle that reaches a stream that flows into a river, and a river that reaches the ocean. After months lost at sea, he's slowly drawn into a massive vortex where trash accumulates, a place known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Here, the ocean's currents have trapped millions of pieces of plastic debris. This is one of 5 plastic-filled gyres in the world's seas, places where the pollutants turn the water into a cloudy plastic soup. Some animals, like seabirds, get entangled in the mess. They and others mistake the brightly colored plastic bits for food. plastic makes them feel full when they're not, so they starve to death and pass the toxins from the plastic up the food chain. For example, it's eaten by lanternfish. The lanternfish are eaten by squid. The squid are eaten by tuna, and the tuna are eaten by us. And most plastics don't biodegrade, which means they're destined to break down into smaller and smaller pieces called microplastics, which might rotate in the sea eternally. But Bottle 3 is spared the cruel purgatories of his brothers. A truck brings him to a plant where he and his companions are squeezed flat and compressed into a block. Okay, this sounds pretty bad too, but hang in there, it gets better. The blocks are shredded into tiny pieces, which are washed and melted so they become the raw materials that can be used again. As if by magic, Bottle 3 is now ready to be reborn as something completely new. For this bit of plastic with such humble origins, suddenly the sky is the limit.
Yeah, so you saw the story of the three bottles. So again, the percentages that go through those three different streams.
Our oceans sustain life. An abundant ocean can feed a billion.
Sorry about that.
People a healthy meal every day forever. But now they are being killed by throwaway plastics.
You can see my slides again, right? Hello?
Yes, can.
Yeah. So, so those are the three different streams, three different lives of alternative plastic bottles. As you know, a good 40%, 40 to 50% of stuff that we use today enters the first stream, which is the landfills. And another 10 to 15%, I think, enters the marine, to the waterways. And what is recycled today in terms of bottles is at maximum 15 to 20%, unfortunately. But yeah, so those are the percentages that gets split between. Of course, a lot of it gets burnt as well. But yeah, but how do we plan to address this now? Now, I kind of shared with you where the problems are in the value chain, right? So we thought, why should you let stuff leak through the value chain, through the consumer, through the either the municipality collection or with the waste collection streams, and before it enters the recycle, there's so much leakage happening. So why don't we take it directly to the consumer by giving a proposition that is a very usable proposition to the consumer? And that's when we came up with this idea of trash to cash, where we try to incentivize consumer enough that they can change their behavior, right? So we thought, okay, we've done a bit of surveys, we've done some research around this. We started with 25, 50 cents. We asked people, would you collect your bottles at home and take it to some place and put it into a recycling bin for a financial reward? And they were like, yeah, if there is significant savings in it or significant incentive in it, we would do it. People were very direct about it, and
Imran, is it just me or has Himesh dropped out?
I can't hear either.
Yeah, I think
I can't hear.
It's
Let me
not my okay.
I think
Himesh, you for some reason you suddenly dropped out there. Oops.
See, Himesh is muted.
Was I speaking to myself all this time?
No, you
Yes.
suddenly dropped out. Like you were, your
Where
slide
did I
was
lose you?
showing. Your
Where
slide
did I
was
lose
showing.
you? Hello?
Yeah, your slide was showing, but you suddenly went static.
Okay, did you hear the story about Trash2Cash, why we came up with it?
I think that's where you dropped out.
Yeah, that's where you dropped off.
Okay. So we looked at going directly to the consumer with a very good proposition, so that we can change the consumer's behavior. We
Right.
done a few surveys around. We asked the consumers. We did some qualitative study. What is that number? If you were given a financial incentive for a bottle, would you go out of the way? And people always were very direct. They were like, okay, if it was between 2, 3, 4 rupees for a bottle, we would collect it, we would take it and put it to some place. If that was the kind of incentive, but if it was like 25 cents, 50 cents, no, we might not change the way we do things today, right? So that's why we kind of came up with this business model for every bottle. As long as the consumer puts it in, it's clean, it's falls into some guideline, that we will accept it, we will give the consumer rewards. So I'm going to just, maybe not all of you are familiar with the concept, what Trash2Cash is and how it works. So I'm going to show a video about Trash2Cash now. It's another 1.5 minute clip on how it works end to end, right? Was I sharing my screen?
Not yet.
Switching from one to another takes a little time.
Your screen is not shared, Himesh.
Yeah, I'm just sharing it now. And I think you can see my screen now.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay. Go back to share. So yeah. Yeah. So I hope it was very clear from the video how Trash2Cash works. It's a very simple process. Customers are meant to collect their plastic bottles within their homes into a different bag as and when they consume. the objective is to switch them from just going shopping to recycle and shopping, right? So they take it just like you would carry your, Heels bag or Cargills or Apico bag. You will carry them with the bottles this time, and you punch in your mobile number, put every bottle one at a time, and we put it with a barcode being scanned so that we know what exactly the bottle you're putting in, and then you get a credit. So for every bottle, currently we give ₹2 for every bottle. We partnered with Elephant House and Coca-Cola. They joined us to trial something out. So they're doubling the incentive for their company bottles. As you know, Coca-Cola company and Elephant House have the most number of bottles. We take Sri Lanka's market share. So they're paying ₹4 per bottle. So for each bottle, you get a credit. And at the end of the session, we allow up to 30 bottles per person for a session and 100 bottles for a month. And those limitations are due to certain practical issues. And they get a text message at the end of it saying you put 10 bottles, you earned ₹40 or ₹20. And we've seamlessly integrated into the Keel's POS system. And when you go finish, you can buy anything you want in your usual shopping basket. And at the cashier, just like you redeem your Nexus points or Cardinals points, you just show your text message and it comes out of your bill saying Trash2Cash discount, right? And the credit you accumulate, you can accumulate throughout the whole month. But by the 31st of the month, it will all expire. So today.
Hello, Himesh, can you hear us? You seem to have dropped out again. Himesh?
We have lost Himesh.
Hello. Himesh? Himesh, are you there? Hello.
We've lost Himesh, Johan, I think.
Guys, he's reconnecting. He had an internet issue. Sorry about that.
You dropped out, no? Right. Right. Okay.
Sorry, I lost you all there.
Right.
I'm not even sure where I lost you. Did you all see the video at all?
Video we saw, that was fine. You had gone back to the slide.
Right, and you lost me when I was explaining the whole process.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to waste time again. But you punch in your number, you get your credit.
Correct. Yeah, you covered that. You covered all that.
Okay, and then you redeem it at the cashier, right?
Yes.
On the bill, it shows Trash2Cash credit.
That's
now, a lot of people think we collect only PET bottles, but no, we collect any plastic bottle. So the objective being every bottle you put into Trash2Cash gets recycled. So I've got a collection of bottles here just to demo to you all, right? Hang on, let me go to the video so that I can see myself properly. So this is the one you're familiar with, the normal plastic bottle, mineral bottle. We take the juicers, we take that. Then these are household products. Again, as long as it's transparent, it's plastic type 1, PET.
Right.
Everything gets recycled. These get into recycled yarn through our partner company, Ecosmindles. They manufacture polyester yarn and gets into polyester garments. Again, that's a slight problem with the microplastic issue later on, but let's not go there. I'm just going to keep it at a high level. Again, household product, these are all PET, gets recycled. But a lot of people don't know the other type of plastic bottle is type number 2, which is hard plastics, relatively, HDPE, right? Milk bottles, HDPE, we collect this. These get into household products like the brushes, brush fibers, buckets, all of that is made out of HDPE. Familiar with this?
Yes.
Familiar with these? These are all shampoos, conditioners, hard plastic, HDPE again. We collect them. So all the bottles literally fall to two categories, type 1 and type 2, except for the cap is generally PP, polypropylene, but everything gets recycled, that's for sure. So this is why we encourage people to kind of bring any kind of plastic bottle and use it in the system. So I want to share how well, I'm going to share my screen again. Switching between screens is a bit of a mess though. Right, so quickly. Explain this part. So the customer facing front of Trash2Cash is very straightforward for the customer. I mean, those who have traveled, I mean, you've seen this in 10 states in the US, Norway, Sweden, Germany, these are very popular, the reverse vending machines. But what's unique about our concept is this is all done in Sri Lanka for a very specific business model. The machines you find there are very well, you know, they would probably scan bottles and you can get a chit and take it off, redeem off your receipts. But here the business model, you know, there's no government legislation around in Sri Lanka. There's no bottle cap. In those countries, when you're buying a product, you pay extra 5 cents, 10 pence for the bottle. And only when you return it to these places, deposit centers, you get your money back. So we don't have a system like that. So we got to run on a very genuine, innovative, private business model where there's no legislation for customer to pay extra for a bottle, right? So we got to be smart around that. That's why we brought in digital screens, customer advertising, that data analytics at the back end. So I'm not going to touch all of that. But on the customer front, it's simply a machine like this, a smart network of machines. We hope to go all around Sri Lanka one day with 500 machines if all goes well. That is, customers get an incentive, and all the plastics are channeled into making upcycled products. You know, currently we do the yarn and other garments with it, but there are other alternatives to that as well. Then at the back end, so the beauty of this is this. I don't think a lot of the other machines in other countries have this facility. We know now from our pilot, we've been doing the pilot for over 6 months. We know every single bottle we collect, what brand it belongs to, what manufacturer, where did it come from, what is the size, what is the plastic type, the weight, the whole works. You know, maybe one day because this is public, I'm not going to share very proprietary information, but we know the top 10 companies, the number of bottles they've generated, how much, we've collected, recycled, and all of that. And hence, this is we're trying to kind of create a voluntary EPR system, extended producer responsibility. I don't want to get too technical here. Basically, it means companies that use plastic bottles for packaging, we want you to join us. You know, for example, just like what Elephant House and Coca-Cola did, you know, they joined us to buy back their bottles, right? So they're helping the recycling cause. So just like that, after the top 2, we have another 8, or if you take the top 20, or we have another 13 more. If all those companies join us to buy back their bottles, then we can really sustainably grow this model to the next level, right? So that's if there are brands, brand owners, company owners, CEOs of packaging companies listening to this talk, I advise you to join this platform where you can at least contribute to collection of your own bottle. Now, in other countries, this is legislated. It's called EPR system. You have to pay for the amount you don't recycle, right? That is a contribution for your externalities. But in Sri Lanka, it will come. It's in discussion, but there's still time for it. So we can even, I mean, when we scale this up to 100 locations, geographically, we will know how much we can recycle. How in different geographies, how much we are recycling versus the offtake, right? So there are wonders we can do together with other modern trade partners that we are working with currently to use. This is what really happens today to the PET we collect. HDP is something else, but there are all the other alternatives like going waste to energy and eco bricks to other stuff we can do. But they are all dependent on what is the market value we can fetch for this product, so that you can feed it back into the incentive to the consumer, right? Right. Then I want to, this I'm going to skip. We are running out of time here. The technology is all developed in Sri Lanka with our tech partners, Vega Innovations. It's the first time in Sri Lanka reverse vending has been rolled out. It's unique. The concept is not unique to the world, as I said, it's done elsewhere. But the whole business model around this, around Trash2Cash, we haven't seen anywhere else. We have a few more revenue channels to plug into this whole concept. Otherwise, we can't give the consumer 4 rupees, right? Because the market value for plastic from what we get is not so high. So there are a few more tricks up our sleeves that we want to bring into play further down the line. Right, this is where I would like a bit of your input. Now, if we know the technology is built in such a way that we can, the low-hanging fruit is plastic bottles. We've seen it, we use it, we can recycle it, right? It works. The pilot has been very successful. 6 months, we've collected. I mean, again, I want to disclose to the numbers. We collect hundreds of bottles a day. PET and HDP, we have thousands of customers with one machine, and the recurring usage is very high. They're very engaged. They love it. When it's broken, they call us, they blackguard us. So we have a high engagement customer base, and I feel the proposition is working for the consumer. But the proposition work around the whole business model yet to be seen. But we're scaling up to 10 more units and 100 more and 500 more in our next, in a staggered manner. Hopefully, if the funding comes through and it's very successful. However, what we want to know is now, bottles is only one problem, and I know you're divers, you've seen other stuff on the sea. We plan to extend this for glass, aluminum, e-waste, flexi packaging, all these verticals, this technology can be applied, right? Now, a question I want to throw to the audience. Now, if you have shopping bags or flexi packaging, or shampoo packets, or the milk powder comes in a foil kind of flexi packaging. Say a biscuit packet, Mari, Melbourne, you name it, Tikiri, all these biscuit packets that you use at home. If you were asked to bring it back to a similar model, say you go shopping, we're telling flexi packaging, collect it into one bag, bring it, scan it and put it into the machine, would you do it? Would you need an incentive? Can I hear some answers to this, please?
I wouldn't do it for the incentive, man.
Okay, why would you do it? Would you do it at all?
I would do it, but I wouldn't do it for the incentive.
Right. Yeah, this is the thing, Himesh. Now, okay. It's sad that in your research that you found out that people would be more susceptible to doing this if they were going to be getting, for an incentive. That shows the sad tragedy that this country has come to.
But that's a fact, no, Johan. That's why we have the problem today, no?
Right.
Otherwise,
most of those. So most of those, I think most of those who are on this webinar right now, who made the time, are basically an audience, I think, who are committed to getting rid of their waste in a methodical way, whether or not they have any sort of incentive. And I'm sure, if it means just separating and segregating each particular product into different bags and going and dumping it free of charge, given to them, they will do it.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So I think this is a good sample, a well-behaving sample. So I'm sure you all are one extreme of the behavior towards the environment, and that's why you're on this call as well. But the general public, the masses that we speak on, because when you're doing a survey, we get a cross section. They wouldn't go out of the way. That's why we have the plastics problem in the first place. Otherwise, they will collect it at home, they will segregate it. So the incentive is what is driving the behavior. But I mean, for us, we are okay. Even if they do it for the incentive, we are okay, because as long as an incentive changes behavior, I think we can instigate that behavior in the long run, even without the incentive. So maybe it will work, because now we want to extend this for shopping bags to flexi packaging and all of that. But whether we will collect enough quantities, whether we can give 2 rupees for flexi packaging and all of that, is still to be tested. Maybe incentive will be low, but as long as we can collect large volumes, and then in Sri Lanka still there is no very efficient way to recycle flexi packaging, is multi-layer. I mean, at least we have a waste to energy that it can go into right now. Again, concepts of circular economy, that's a very low hierarchical solution. However, it still won't end up in the environment, still a good solution, right? So we are looking at ways where we can kind of abide to the circular economy closely. So if you can collect material, our objective would be to recycle them, to use the material and make another product out of it, as opposed to going to energy. It will be the next level if you can't do that, right? Ideally, stuff like bottles, if it's bottle to bottle, that's the perfect loop. But right now, bottle to yarn is again a down. Although we call it upcycle, it's actually recyclability is getting lower and lower and lower. And one day again, it will enter the environment again. So these are issues we have with whatever model we choose. But at least, you are extending the lifetime of the materials that are in use. And we kind of prevent stuff getting into the environment in a very linear fashion. Like if we buy, use, dispose, it gets to the environment quickly. But if it does a few loops, at least you're keeping it in the system for a longer time. So that's the objective of circular economy. Yeah, so that is pretty much what I want to share with you in terms of trash to cash and how we address these issues and the vision in terms of addressing other recyclables. But I just want to I would like to kind of open the forum for questions so that we can dig a little deep in the remaining few minutes in any area you would like to direct